Welcome back to the episode of Black Ice Reality Check. I'm your host, Black Ice. I have a special guest here today, business owner, entrepreneur, husband, father. Very successful, came from nothing to something. Is that fair? Jaysse Lopez in the house.
How's it going?
The owner and founder, still CEO of Urban Necessities?
Part owner, founder of Urban Necessities. Yeah.
Right on, right on. And if you don't know who that is the number one, would you say, shoe store, reseller? How would you describe what you do?
I think it's just a really big box that lets me do a bunch of cool stuff. It's sneakers, toys, contemporary art, barbershop, tattoo shop.
And you're at the shops in Emporium, right?
Yeah, the flagships and forum shops.
Right. How many stores do you have now?
So we have 2 here in Vegas. One of them's a pop-up over at Crystals, and then we also have one in LA, and we also have a licensing deal with the store out in Saudi and Riyadh.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Any plans to go to Dubai?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the deal that we signed up for, right?
Oh, wow.
Is to have a couple in that region, and my operating partners, I think, are doing a great job of getting that going.
Right on. And if you haven't been to that store in Vegas, you have to go in and check it out. It will blow your mind. There's lines there sometimes. Sometimes he's in there. I've seen you in there a couple times. Walking by, it's like, hey, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thankful to have this guy on the show. Let me tell you a quick story. I was watching his videos probably 3, maybe 4 years ago on YouTube, and I grew up in the era when the Nike Air Jordans came out, right? Those were my basketball shoes. And I think I was in high school, right? And I had the red and black and the blue and black.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, if I would have kept those shoes, right? And now, I mean, I don't even know what a used pair is worth, but
I mean, if were in wearable condition, still you could if you still had those 2, you probably could buy another Mercedes with like miles on it. Yeah. And if they were brand new and like still like, they oxidize, they harden because of the materials that they use. But if they were still like, I could put my foot in these, you could definitely buy a new Mercedes if you had those 2 with the original boxes and stuff. Yeah.
And you probably come across those every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, out the woodwork or like hundreds of them that pop up. But yeah, we'll see a handful of them throughout each year, and, in all different conditions from, pretty much obliterated, like not wearing them, and now a mantelpiece to like you might want to put your foot in them kind of thing. It's kind of cool.
And tell people how big your flagship store is. How big is that?
So the store in Caesars is 18,000 square feet. Our pop-up in Crystals is 10,000 square feet. One in LA is about 6,000 square feet. So I mean, the intention of the brand wasn't to just pencil itself into being just a sneaker store. It was something that we wanted to attract all walks of life. And we think of like the museum but the difference is you could see, touch, feel.
Right. You have a barber in there.
Yeah.
And the one in Caesars.
Yep.
You have a tattoo artist.
Yep. Multiple.
You have, is it ice cream?
We had ice cream, kind of transitioned out of that and are, recategorizing that whole section.
And you got a bunch of cool Supreme stuff that shows up. Like, I think I saw jet skis maybe one time.
We had jet skis.
Is it a ping pong table? What was in there?
Had a ping pong table in there.
You got some cool stuff.
I mean, Supreme has done a great job of I think, collaborating with brands that like most people will scratch their head and say, what the heck are they thinking here? But they're the conversation pieces that make that brand, right? And they're owned by LVMH.
So let's go back to I want to talk about your background and what made you, you were born and raised in
Jersey.
Yeah.
Puerto Rican descent.
Puerto Rican. Okay. Yeah. So you grew up in the house with a lot of energy, a lot of spiciness in that house.
Actually, yes and no. Like I grew up in a really, I think, introverted format. And I think I was very curious. I think my curiosity got me in trouble. Like, I wasn't a bad kid. I just always put myself in stupid scenarios. But I think they're the experiences that kind of made me look at stuff the way that I do now, right? I've always learned from watching outside, being outside.
Right.
And now as my brand has grown, I'm more motivated than ever to be like somewhere else. right? And just learn the cultures and how people operate and conduct business, and really kind of, you know, when you start looking at people that you appreciate or businesses that you respect, you start trying to like mimic or emulate, and then like kind of make your own, and you put your own spin on it, right? So I think I've had a lot of great examples over the years that have allowed me to turn this thing that started on a, you know, essentially on a kitchen table into something that's like looked at as the standard now for retail.
What got
sneakers.
you? What got you into the sneakers? Oh, I mean, can you tell the story about
Yeah,
when you were in line and you were waiting in line? I think it was your girlfriend at the time, now your wife.
Yeah. So I mean, I got a bunch of standing in line sneaker stories, but I've said it before. I wanted to be an athlete. I'm short, fat, out of shape. I suck at most of the sports that I try to play, but I'm competitive.
Right.
I wanted to get into music, but I really was, I don't know why, just scared to put thought on paper and then, you know, regurgitate it out, even though now my whole being or my whole existence is content. But I started looking at all these things that I had a deep appreciation for or love for, and how do I exist in a space that I love without looking like a tryhard. And so when I lost a job and I met a girl and I was living outside my means, like,
that all in one sentence. I lost a job, met a girl.
Yeah.
The timing couldn't be worse, right?
Yeah, well, that's how all of it is, right? Like, I opened the business probably at the worst, like, financial moment of my life, but I think it was probably the easiest for me to open because it was the easiest for me to pivot and kind of mold and make, right? So, the sneaker thing was just a buy time till I found another job. I still haven't found another job. I am actively looking though.
I don't think you need to look, bro.
I'm looking.
Are you seriously looking to start something else? I mean, you seem like a guy that can't sit still.
You're absolutely right. So I've always said from the beginning, internally to friends, family, I think I might have spewed it on some older videos too. It's like when I feel like I can't add value, or if I can't solve a problem, then I gotta find the graceful way to move, right? And find something that is like another onion that I'm just gonna get consumed with, peeling all the layers, and just like, I love what I do. I don't think I could ever let go of what I do, but I think that there's different ways to do what I do, and I'm in that stage, I think.
But are you doing primarily content now? Or are you just traveling? Are you the face of the company, but not so active as before?
That's a great question. I think that I'm accepting, because my micromanaging of the brand made me realize one thing, right? Is that if I don't delegate and I don't allow others to come in and try to execute things for me, then I'm only going to be X amount of efficient, right? So if I allow, and then I coach and teach and then correct and then have those conversations and kind of reinvest the time, energy, and effort that I was putting in and doing all the sweat labor or sweat equity of the brand and give that to other people, is it going to water down a little bit? Sure, but I'll have more opportunities to do other things that I'm really curious about. Like, I'm so intrigued by other things that I just like, these worlds that have kind of like I've stumbled on through my journeys and just the interactions of life that got me really saying like, I wonder if I could do that. And
so any examples of is it business or philanthropy?
I think it's everything.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, Urban Necessities wasn't a sneaker. Like, I'm thankful that I'm known for something, right? Like, I'm considered like a solid, like, extension.
You're an icon in the industry.
That's tough because it's like,
are
you comparing that to?
You have a Wikipedia page.
I do?
Do you?
No, I don't know.
Let's see.
I think that's, it's funny. It's like the other day, right? I got interviewed to do something for Telemundo, like kind of telling my backstory. And they told me they were gonna like spew this out in like 3 or 4 days. So like 5 days later, I'm like, this hasn't come out. So like I Googled, you know how like you could kind of set your settings to like where if there's a mention of you could kind of look it up.
Right.
Kind of thing. And I didn't see anything, but I saw like I had like a net worth. There's like celebrity net worth. Right?
Oh my gosh. Was it accurate?
No, it's like I was like, man, I want to like hit up whoever's in charge of this and see if I could get a loan off of this based off of what my net worth
Well,
is.
the net worth, isn't that worth like your assets and your house, your cars?
Sure. I guess. I was like,
Can I get a loan off this?
I'm like, if that's accurate, I'm pretty impressed. Like,
you probably are worth more than you think.
Probably.
Because the value,
everybody is.
but look what you've done. So the value isn't necessarily based on money. It's what you've done.
Right.
And who you've led, whose lives you impacted.
Right.
And to do what you've done, you have to have impacted several people's
Well, if
lives.
that's the case, I'm definitely undervalued and there should be a lot more zeros.
Are you, now can I ask you,
Yeah,
you don't have to answer this.
Ask away.
Is Urban Necessities ever thought about going public?
I think we've had that conversation internally at points. I don't think I've, like, again, you might say I'm undervaluing, but, looking behind the curtain, right? Have I really added the layers to really bring the value to get all these people in? And then at what cost and sacrifices of the moral compass, right? Because it's
You lose
like,
control, you lose a lot of say.
right. Well, even in the changes that I have now, like I had to give some of that up. And it's like, am I okay with someone else telling me how to do what I think is right? Right. And so there's a balance and I'm still adjusting, right? Like I'm a kid that I'm not a kid, but I mean, I'm a guy that grew up where education wasn't a thing, right? Like I learn outside, right? So I'm not saying that I can't adapt or adjust or get acclimated with this new way of conducting business, but that takes me a little bit longer than most. And I don't think that's needed in my space at the moment, right? Like retail is very broken. And I think that, there are tons of people that want to jump into this and say, hey, I got money to, speed this up 1,000,000x, but it's like, is it going to be done right?
Are you seeing more sales transitioning to online through your store? Like if you do an analysis of sales, is the percentage of people buying from your store online going up?
No.
They want to feel it and touch
We're
it.
also like, we've never really taken online serious in that sense. Like almost all of my revenue, which is, in the, like now over 200 million in sales in the 9.5 years that I've been in business, it's almost all in store.
Is that 200 million total?
In sales, yeah.
Okay,
like
so
north of.
Annually it's...
Yeah, we're doing solid. I mean, there's changes like all retail, right? Like, but as the changes are happening, it's more margin than volume.
Did you see, and I say this with grace because people are like, no, we're not in a recession. We're in a recession. Okay?
Yeah,
okay.
1,000,000%.
Have you seen revenue drop this last year and a half, 2 years? I had a business that went under in January of 2023. So I had to shut one of my I've been doing the same thing for 28 years, basically a technical recruiter in the tech space. And in 01, I went under, 08 now. So I had to shift and pivot later in life. I have a supplement company now in the fitness industry, but I saw it affect me because when there's a recession, nobody's hiring. I'm out of business. And I was probably one of the guys, I was the urban necessity recruiter, if you will. I've been doing it so long that I had the clients, I had the skill set, I knew where to go. And for me, it was like, I know this like the back of my hand. Like if you told me, hey, how much is a sneaker? I have no idea. I'd have to shoot in the dark. But this industry I knew. So this recession, literally, it's there. I still have the business, but there's no revenue. So how has it affected you? Did you see sales go down?
So again, I think every business globally and every side and every aspect of something being sold, sales are down, right? I think the ones that are adjusting are the ones that are having those tough conversations, pivoting, shedding, trimming fat. And this is what I'm learning the longer that I've done and the more interactions that I've had with people that have had successful businesses for much longer than I probably will ever be alive. Right? It's that, like, at some point you figure out something that you're good at, right? And it's like your mom's spaghetti sauce. Everybody in the family loves your mom's spaghetti sauce, and you got her to the point where she opened up a shop. And mom's spaghetti, for as great as it is, like if she keeps using the same exact formula, it's gonna take her much longer, and it's gonna cost more. So you have to shed and adjust, and at the same time you have to charge more for doing less. And I think that where we're at is because of all this newfound time that we had during the pandemic. Our consumers really got the opportunity to see what was out there as far as variety, and then they started learning how to do stuff themselves. And there's more ambition to become an entrepreneur, so there's a lot more noise in these respected spaces, and it's harder to stick out. And because what your spaghetti sauce turned into, you had to add so many layers to keep it going at that, to continue to generate what you are. That's all you know. And now you're in this like, well, damn, I used to do this and I used to make that and people loved it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Whereas at no point in time did we really have the opportunity to forecast. Like when you come up with that idea or that concept of what you want to do, right? Like there's so many variables that you don't even factor in. Like, you could be in business. You're not factoring if it rains too much today. Are people going to stop? Are they going to go to your store? Like that was, I joke about that, but in New York, right? Like I put up this pop-up and I'm like inside a very well-known brand on a historical like crossway in New York, right? On Houston and Broadway. And like, I remember passing this building when I was a kid and like taking pictures in front of the plaque on the side of the building, and now my store's in that, right? I never thought, well, it's snowing today, so no one's gonna buy sneakers, right? No, I just kept looking at, this is a great location. Like there's variables that happen in business that you can't forecast. So if a wind gust comes, what are you doing, right? And so I think that on the same side, the consumer's now gotten hipped. We're itemizing all our fees that we're charging the customers. So like if you look at the hotel space, you're charged your room rate, your, like the taxes for the city are itemized, the
resort fees.
They
went up.
Everything changed. And then now you have to pay for the parking too. So it's like, as a customer or a consumer of something, you don't want to feel like you're just going through the ringer, because this business is doing a poor job of articulating or changing like what they needed to change internally. Like think about if it was just one flat fee, and then you just like in these businesses, right? Like a hotel. If I saw one flat fee instead of 12 different fees, I wouldn't even think about it. That's what it costs, and I'm assuming all these costs are embedded in that, and that's why the price is.
But doesn't it scare you, like for the average consumer, if you see a hotel and it says $175 a night, hypothetically,
and it goes to 300,
right? But if you see the 300 up front, you're going to pull back. It's kind of like the casino chips.
Yeah, but
they have casino chips because you don't respect the value of it because it's a chip versus seeing the money, right?
Right.
I mean, is that
no? It's the same. It's the same premise, but I think the consumer is now asking the questions and really looking at it like the cash and not the chips, right? So I think it's like necessary too for all these businesses to break. It's really all of it's luck, in a sense, that you happen to be able to grab the attention of someone that's supporting or going in and spending or going online and spending when there's a million other options there for you.
Do you feel like YouTube helped your business the most? Because a lot of people, that's how I found out about you.
I think YouTube has allowed me to get a platform that I at first didn't understand the value of it. And I was like just foot and mouth, and like, heaven forbid you walked in front of me, it was like dry sense of humor jokes, and everything was like, wow, this guy doesn't understand what he's doing. And then I really halfway through figured out, okay, I could use this from an educational standpoint. And I think that the educational standpoint will help more people and impact more people than me using this as look at what I bought or look at what I'm doing.
Right.
Right. And even still, like it's just really hard to educate when everybody's looking at it with a different perspective. Everybody has a different opinion, and not everybody's on the same playing field or has the same ideologies as you, right? And now with content, everybody's scared about saying anything because, in my opinion, freedom of speech is being attacked. And heaven forbid you have an idea or an opinion that's different than the person in front of you, because all of a sudden your character gets judged because you might look at something different, and we might not even be like intellectually on the same like level on that particular topic.
Sure.
So I do a lot of butt hurting people on content.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I had a video I put out. This is I had another channel. I don't want to say shadow ban, but it was. And
I 100% feel like my content is shadow banned, but that's a whole nother conversation.
I'm black and white. That's my background, but I've always supported the capital side of political, because I have own businesses, so I get it. And I was always shunned for it, right? Because when you don't self-educate yourself and really look at it from a holistic perspective, instead of just saying, oh, they're saying one thing about this dude, I don't like him. It's like, well, why don't you like him? Like, you may not like a tweet, or you may not like this, but look what he did, right? And so I always look at the outcome. And so I had a video I brought. There was the COVID situation, and I literally had a video. I remember I was sitting in the I had a brand new Toyota Tacoma, lifted, tricked out. I'm sitting in it. I'm gonna do a video. I started asking questions. It's like, why can we sit down at a restaurant with a mask off, but we have to wear the mask walking in? I'd ask all these questions, and it was more curiosity. They pulled the video down.
Well, I mean, again, I think there needs to be a reintroduction as to the etiquette that has to happen when you're having a conversation about something that might be sticky, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to have that aha moment where they look at it in a way different than what's being said from someone that has a bigger following than you. Right? Like that's just, and most of the people that, yell from the tallest mountain are the ones that are the least of your supporters, right? So like I'm learning, over these 12 years of really being in this like public eye, like if you say 1 + 1 is 5, you got it, bro. Like I'm not even going to argue with you. Like there's no point. There's no value.
But how is your content? How do you feel like you've been shadow banned? Like your content is about life, business, family, success.
There's just been a bunch of stuff. Like some people aren't some people don't appreciate Kanye's, like way he articulates his frustrations in life about certain things. And then some people think he's a Semite, and some people think he's the second coming, and if I happen to post, like I see the value, and like if you have something that's shock value, like for as much as you might think I condone it or don't condone it, I have a clear understanding of like ratings and views, right? And like I used to joke all the time, likes pay my bills, and I'm not necessarily trying to win over everybody.
But you don't sell out for it. You're just yourself.
I mean, it depends on who you ask, right? I understand. I know what I believe in, and I have those beliefs are close to me. I don't grab anybody on social and say, hey, force fed down your throat. This is what I believe in. But I like playing, or not necessarily playing, but I like putting something in the middle which causes engagement, and then allow people to articulate their whys. They believe that, right?
Right.
Some people do a better job of doing that in a way that doesn't is perceived as harmful, racist, which is the most annoying thing for me ever. Like it's not racism, it's like classism, right? And like there's so many times where people are they put themselves in scenarios where, because they don't know how to interact with that certain type of person, fear comes in and they overreact or underreact. And like, that's a conversation that I don't think happens enough, and the right people aren't trying to bring it up. But I'm not saying I'm trying to become like this, political, like social media, like narrative, like savior or anything like that. But I'm just like, as I get older, man, like I'm starting to look at it more like step back, look at it, think about it, not always over like react. Don't spew your first thought. And I still suck at it.
I do too.
But I think I'm better today than I was like 12, 14, 15 years ago. Like if something like rubbed me the wrong way, my confusion or not understanding would put me in situations where in hindsight, I wish I could have thought about it.
Right,
you know?
right.
So we'll see.
Now you recently, and I saw this before you said, look at my Instagram. Remember the text I sent you? And I was like, when are you going to be back? You look at my Instagram. And I was like, I saw it. You met with Trump.
Yeah.
How did that happen? I mean, I'd love to meet the guy. I mean, that was my whole video. I had a shirt that said, and I see everybody as like, I try not to look at races. I look at you're an American, you're a man, whatever, you're a person. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Latino, whatever. To me, you're a man, right? And so I got persecuted a lot living in Seattle because I supported Trump the first time, being half black, right? I got called Uncle Tom, all this stuff, and I just laughed about it. So I did this whole podcast called Biracial Bro on the political. And so I had a shirt that said Blacks for Trump. So during the pandemic, I was walking through San Francisco.
Shock value.
I was walking through San Francisco airport, LAX, Costco in Seattle. And, there's this guy's big with his tank top, his black. And it went viral. But then they started pushing down my YouTube channel. But how did you get a chance to meet this guy, Trump? I mean, like, I that would be just amazing. And you were there. How'd that come about?
You can't really make up the scenario of how I met him, right? So SneakerCon, the trade show that I've, everybody's that follows me knows about me. I followed them around for, the existence of my brand. Pretty much 6 months into me starting my brand, I started going to their shows. And they're like, look, we have someone who was an ex-president that is going to be in the room. And we submitted a list of people that we thought there would be value in him interacting with. And you're on that list. Would you like to meet him? And so, I was like, I'll call you back. Called him back a couple minutes later. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll go. And it was more out of my curiosity.
Sure.
Of like, look at me, bro. I have absolutely no reason meeting a president, right? Or ex-president or whatever he is. I went out of respect for an important position in American government and like what we stand for.
Yeah.
Right? Do I condone every one of his, traits, behaviors?
Sure.
Or foot and mouth moments? No. A lot of people of Puerto Rican descent obviously were very upset at me for, shaking the guy's hand. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that most of the people that commented anything negative, which I have between 4 posts, millions of views and like north of 10,000 comments on these like 3 or 4 different posts.
And you read all of them?
I'll skim through them for the first 2 or 3 days.
And was this on Instagram or YouTube you're referring to?
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So I've read almost every comment.
Wow.
And I can't, I have to learn. I have to understand. That's how you keep your ear to the street, right? And none of the comments really bothered me except for like 1 or 2 that just like, you got to give the person the benefit of the doubt that they don't have a clear understanding of the impact of what they're saying could do to someone mentally or physically, right? Like they took it instantly to my kids, my mom, stuff like that, which was that was like one comment. But
did you mind me asking? Did you block them and ban them?
Wow. Look, if me posting a picture with an ex-president is the worst part of your day, then you got it good. And if this is the one thing that riles you up, then so be it, right? Like, so I get the opportunity to meet the guy. Look, I've never really been one to like, again, express my opinions.
Sure.
Like, or say what I am or who I voted for or this or that, right? It's just very frustrating to me how much race is involved. Like, instead of asking the right questions. I think that we're just taking the easier route, the getting louder and writing in you know, I like exclamation, like
Sure.
in caps of like what you're wording to win an argument or to be right that day.
Right.
The thing with Puerto Rico, there's a video he threw like paper towels and stuff at, you know, like at a moment where there was you know, supplies being given to people in Puerto Rico.
So he wasn't throwing them at him. He was throwing them
just
to
grabbing them and like playing Kobe kind of thing, right?
Right.
Which I get it. It could rub people the wrong way, but a lot of the people, and even myself, like I don't have all the details, right? But how can I be mad at a guy that I only saw a 30-second video of this moment, but I'm gonna ignore the fact that between this president and the existing president, there's been over $6 billion given to Puerto Rico in 2.5 years, and they haven't used it correctly. At least to my knowledge, we didn't delegate and help as efficiently as we possibly could have. Like, so yeah, was that a wrong moment? Was that a grace? Was that tastefully done? Probably not. But was the intention to help there? Yeah, like every other president. They go to where there's some serious trauma or a moment that happens, like when I hate to bring stuff up, but like when the stuff happened in Hawaii, Biden went over a helicopter. Am I wrong on that? When the Katrina stuff happened, Bush went over in a helicopter. He didn't get out and like interact with the people. I'm not saying this was the correct interaction, but this guy did what he thought he should have done.
His intention was not nefarious.
And to be fair, I like, for as much as I want to say, you know what, you were wrong for this, I also have to look at the people that are around him. And I'll give you an example, right? When we were in that room, I'm one of 6 people that were allowed to be in the room from an influencer, content, ambassador of culture. Were in the room, right? And they vetted us as far as like trying to get an understanding of what we were going to bring up and talk to this guy about. And you know, the guys that are before me or there with me, a little bit younger, obviously their interest isn't in, you know, like the state of the country. They care about sneakers and making content and doing stuff for clicks. And so, you know, there was a moment where we all saw the sneakers. We all asked, hey, are we going to get a pair of these since we're in this room? And, you know, the answer was like, we're discussing that. We're thinking about it. And I go, well, if we get them, you should sign them, right? And the reason you should sign them is because this is kind of like the first time we all have an understanding. This is the first time anybody that had that position has decided to create something in this space. Now, what's getting overlooked, like subcontext here, is that this sneaker, in my opinion, although it's a sneaker and it was released at a sneaker event, it wasn't for sneakerheads to buy. It was more to build awareness for sneaker enthusiasts of, hey, this is a guy that might be an option for you, right? Not a, I'm jumping into this culture and I'm going to start selling sneakers and take on Kanye and Nike and Adidas and all that other stuff. And that's what people are kind of trying to take it to, right? So when he's giving us these sneakers, I'm like, you should sign them, because if any of us at some point decide to make content or post this, these shoes are even, it's more, it helps your story. If we could sell these shoes, if we decide to sell these shoes for 4 figures, 5 figures, 6 figures, whatever the shoe winds up being, $1, $10, the fact that it's signed and it was tied to that moment and there's content behind it, there's real value for you there. And then you see them all go to the side, right? And they're like huddling. You start seeing one guy waving his hands.
Are these advisors and shit?
And I was like shaking their hands like this. I hope that they decide to drop this content, but they have all the content because they took all our cameras, they took all our phones.
What?
Yeah,
They took your phone?
Yeah, but they didn't physically take our phones.
Oh,
but like,
okay.
Put your phones here, leave it here.
You couldn't record and stuff like that, right?
Where like the big giant, like, you know, one of those big hardcore plastic boxes that people like styrofoam cut out, like either for your guns or sneakers or whatever.
And it cuts a Wi-Fi.
And it cut everything in the whole building, right? And so you see these guys talking, and then out of nowhere he comes back and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna sign them. So he starts signing the shoes. So I know I'm rambling, but back
No, I like this. Keep going.
Back to what I was getting at about how like sometimes you don't have the right people and the right conversations aren't happening, right? He's signing it on the toe box of the shoe, which is the top, right? And I was like, he should be signing on the side where the T is and just use the T from the shoe for his signature. And they were like, that's Trump. He does whatever he wants. And so that's part of like what's wrong in this equation. When I go back,
they didn't let him make a decision.
When I go back to this Puerto Rico thing, like in hindsight, there should have been someone that had a conversation, and he should have had an understanding of what is the temperature in that room before I walk in, and what is the understanding of these people before I walk in. And so, some people, like the rebuttal when I brought this up to a buddy of mine on the phone a couple days ago when we were having this conversation, somebody in music, he was like, well, he loves hanging out with black people. He hangs out with 50 Cent. He freed Kodak Black and this and that. And I go, yeah, he has had, controlled interactions, but that doesn't mean he has an understanding of what etiquette is. He's done everything, but does he really have people skills? And that's where he could probably do better. But this isn't me also supporting him saying, I condone the shit. Like, I'm a sneaker guy. I'm one of the right people to put in that room, because who other than me, besides those 5 other people that were selected, was chosen to be like an ambassador and try to like put out content, because it's a touchy subject, right? And then I got friends that are rappers that are asking me for shoes, right? That they're asking me for the shoe, but they're paid by Democratic part. Like it's
yeah,
like,
no,
I
get it.
It's frustrating for me because like, yeah, it's worth having the conversation, but then at the same time, it's like a never-ending rabbit hole that you're in, and you're just chasing your tail. And it's like, yo, whatever you want to think about me with this, cool.
But it's funny because I'm a little bit older, and as you get older, and I'm not saying I have more wisdom, but I've been around a little bit longer, but you start not giving a shit about what people's opinions are to a point.
Well, it doesn't pay my bills.
Exactly.
And like, if you are this against what I'm doing, then this wasn't for you, and I don't need to win everybody over.
Right.
For me, this was a great opportunity for when that picture went viral, which it did, because it was everywhere, right? It went everywhere.
Oh, I saw it. I saw it pop up on my feed several times. How many of those
people, let's just say, okay, I had 1 million plus interactions, closer to like 3 million interactions. How many of those 3 million people do you think really took the time to say, that actually looked at it and said, who the heck is this guy? And why him? Doesn't make sense that he's next to him. Let me figure out who he is. Even if 1% of 3 million people did that, and then even if 1% of those people spent $1 with me, was it worth it? Right? And so now I look at it as like, regardless of where this guy goes, I hope he doesn't go like in a direction where he's looked at as some of the, people that are frowned upon. But like,
well, I think his intentions are good to a point. I support him, but again, if he...
For this part of the conversation, I honestly don't really care, like what he does, what he doesn't do. I just hope that he doesn't do something that is frowned upon for our country.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and that's it. Yeah. At the end of the day, I'm going to look at this. People are going to look at this 15, 20 years from now and say, man, this guy met a ex-president. And if the guy goes to jail, the shoe's probably worth more or less. If the guy gets reelected, the shoe's probably worth more or less. If the guy pardons himself, it's probably worth more or less, right? Like, regardless of where this happens, there's still this thing that at some point is part of American sneaker history, and there's value to that. Whether that's a sentimental, whether that's a monetary, this might pay for the next Mercedes. It might buy a house. It might not even pay for a pair of sneakers, but I got it for free.
Well, the value's already there.
Yeah, I mean, people are buying pictures, sold listings on eBay for $800. Just
what's that
pictures.
guy that has the YouTube channel? The Russian guy that does the watches. He won the auction.
Yeah, he did. So they took one. His name slips my mind too.
I
know who you're talking about. I'll be honest. I don't follow his content because I'm trying to stop looking at watches because I went down a gnarly rabbit hole and like I just.
What's the most expensive watch you have?
This Omega Swatch watch on my wrist right now. I got rid of everything and bought a house cash a couple months ago. Well, last year.
Okay.
For a buddy, to move a buddy out here. So
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, I didn't want to mess up my debt to income, so I just bought a cash.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a you obviously had Rolexes.
I think I bought like 31 timepieces in like a span of 2.5 years.
APs, Patek's.
Yeah.
What?
I had a little bit of everything, man. I'm like, when I get into something, it's like
OCD.
It's like what was that on Family Guy? Oh, a piece of candy. Oh, a piece of candy. Oh, a piece of candy.
Oh my gosh. So are you that way with cars now?
I'm that way with everything I get into. It's kind of scary, but it's fun. I'm learning
But you
the
know,
whole way through.
I think because of that mindset, I think that will allow you to be successful in whatever you do if you put your mind to it. Because you get that tunnel vision.
What I have in my
hyper-focused.
head for like the next iteration of me is so much grander than anybody.
Don't say it because I
No, like what I think what I know I'm on the cusp of doing is going to be much greater than anything I've ever accomplished. And I think I'm going to be able to do it with less. Well, I know I'm going to be able to do it with less.
Really.
So I'm excited, but at the same time, like I need certain things to play out, and I need to finish, whipping up the sauce in a way that I think is, worth, or, people can stomach.
When do you think you're going to start this?
I have no idea.
Grandioso.
I think when I have a fighting, when my wife can honestly look me in the eyes and says I have this beat with her cancer, and I think I would hope sooner than later, before my last breath. Let's say that.
So, and we can talk about that. So your wife, you mentioned, I heard about this, and I didn't want to really bring it up to you, but I ran into you at the 8 Lounge at Resort World, and I was like, dude, I got the guy. I see him again. The second time I saw you, because I saw you in here a long time ago, and then I know you're busy, and I was like, I caught him in the wind at the Super Bowl weekend, and my mom's going through stage 4. Now, you said your wife's recovering.
Yeah, so my wife, she's got a shot where she might be able to say that she's cancer free at some point, right? I know that sounds insane, but her last PET scan showed that there's no cancer and that the tumor shrunk to the point where they could take the tumor out. So
is this like special? You think
she's been going through a really intense program, and like the one thing that I'll say, regardless of what people might think I have or don't have, the greatest thing that I have is the network of people that trust and allow and are open to helping and talking. And so when my wife was sick, the first thing I did besides freak out and find out of this illness that she had was like, I called everybody that I thought had generational wealth. And I'm like, I know you guys have better access than me. What do I need to change? What do I need to get? What do I need to spend? Who do I need to see? And so it started there. And a couple people called in, some favors, and got my wife to a doctor that we all felt comfortable with, because the first couple doctors we saw, my wife just was like, I don't know. I don't think that this is just a regular thing to them. Like, doesn't feel like they're the right person to take this on. And so now she's going to UCLA and getting procedures done at UCLA. She's had multiple surgeries.
Really?
She's had chemo for 2+ years.
So how long has she been battling this for?
Well, when we found out, the doctor was saying that the spread and the growth was as if she's had it for like 10 years.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
So 10 years.
But we didn't even know. Like, it was just like random.
She had no symptoms.
She had symptoms, but we didn't understand them. We just thought it was
two and two
just
together.
Yeah, we never put 2 and 2 together. And one day, she's just in a lot of discomfort and not feeling well. And I was like, you know what? We're going to a hospital, and we're not leaving till you find out what's wrong, right? And then they were saying, we're not saying it's cancer, but.
And how long have you and your wife been together?
We've been together we've been married. This will be, next year will be 10 years, right? So.
But you met her when you were
13 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you, I feel this, but maybe, you're going to, the right woman can make or break a man, and your success is attributed a lot to your wife.
She's the glue, all right? She's had it 100 times harder than I probably have ever had, no matter how I may feel about it. I've always been the creative, and I'm the one that like says, look, I got all this, and this is what should be in our sauce. Figure it out, right? So I'm like the guy that, when I was a kid, I wonder how a VCR works. Open it up, take it apart. All right, that's how it works, and then leave it there, right? Like, so she's the one that's got to put the VCR back, right? So then I'll understand here what the disconnects or problems are, and then I'll try to figure out, okay, how do you automate, right? So there was, when we first started, it's a consignment shop, right? So if you brought me an item to sell, you would have to give me a piece of paper. I'd give you a piece of paper. I'd keep a piece of paper. We weren't even photocopying. We were just, everything was manual, right? And if you want to make a change, you had to come in. Then we'd have to change it, date it, sign it. And then it was like being done by emails. So like all of it was just taking lumps. And so now we're also cutting checks because it's all consigners, right? So the reconciling of pulling sales reports, attaching the sales report and finding the consigner that owned it and all that, right? When we were generating, hundreds of transactions a week, was taking her like north of 90 hours a week of, accounting. It took me a couple years, but I got it down to 3 button clicks right? Started building and peeling off the layer and just, this one pulls a report, this one matches it, this one prints it. And my excitement, jokingly, I say it now lovingly, but it might have not sound lovingly back then, but it would be like, man, I can't wait till I get your job down to 3 button clicks because you're going to get your life back and you're going to be able to help me on with this. But every time that something was taken off the plate, something else got added.
So she was
HR, she was accounts payable.
Oh my God.
She was in the trenches, right?
She was in the
everything that
I'm laughing in a fun way, not at her, but it's like, because HR, that's a whole new ballgame.
And then
personnel.
and then you got to think it's like husband, wife, right? You don't want to take this stuff home, but it's work and it's your business and it's your life. So
how did you navigate that, the difference between husband and wife and business partners or business associate or whatever? How did you separate the two without making it a battle? I'm not saying you didn't have battles, but how did you do that?
A lot of times.
And she's Latina?
She's Filipino Hawaiian.
Okay, Filipino Hawaiian.
So
Latino.
when I get older couples or couples that were married long time, how what's the secret? That I would ask, right? And most of my replies were just shut up, and they're right, you're wrong, right? So I try that a lot. I stopped questioning and just saying, hey, this is what's needed. Like, just let's figure it out, get it done, and a lot of whiskey in between.
Whiskey. A lot of whiskey.
Nah, she's great, man. She's
Filipino. That's
feisty.
That's Spaniard in their bloodline.
She's really sharp with the words. She's a lot smarter than I'll probably ever be. She doesn't get enough credit for what we built. But when she got sick, she's been like, she's fighting the battle. So the last 2 years, it's been me and my operating partners that are taking on the business, and they've done a great job of kind of, helping me kind of learn that I was micromanaging the business and have given me a lot of my time back to be where I need to be and helping her fight her battle. So I'm outside when I need to be and I interact when I have to, but I'm home.
Do you go in the shop a lot now, or are you like, how many hours a week are you there?
Not as many as you think. I love it. I can't stand the thought of not being in there. Not because I don't think I know it's being ran right. I just miss the art of interacting with people and like teaching, right? Like whether that's staff, consumer, just interacting. I love to see, like I've always nerded when I was homeless. I used to people watch all the time. So that's like a big thing for me. So sitting at home and not being able to people watch is tough for me. Right. But it's needed because, again, like I said at the beginning of this, if I'm doing all of it, then I'm not going to be able to do any of it.
Do you find yourself falling more into the dad role, spending more time with the kids? Do you feel like?
I think that I'm getting the opportunity to be a better father today than I could have ever been back then. And so like I'm now, my kid's 21. So I'm now having conversations with her that my parents would have never had with me, from, giving insight as to why certain behaviors, moments, like my whys, what, like, so the suggestions are, it's gone past like talking to her like a 4-year-old, right? Like I'm getting the opportunity to be a dad when I could create the most impact, and when I was the most prepared to be a dad. Like the story traumatized me on wanting to have kids or be a dad or any of it. I used to joke all the time that I ran the world's largest daycare and I never had enough diapers or wipes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
So you have 2 kids?
I have one, and then I have 2 Frenchies that feel like 2 kids.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
my son's going to be 21 in May. And
Yeah,
he's
you work with him.
Yeah, he's in the studio.
Yeah.
He's just walking by.
What's that like?
It's interesting because I'm the, just do it. Like I'm military background, and then it was either giving orders, taking orders. So I had a hard time transitioning to the real world. And then once I've been if you will, 1099, I've always worked for myself.
Yeah.
And because I'm like you in a lot of ways where I know I can do it this way and it works, I have a hard time delegating.
Yeah.
And so with him, he does these special projects for me. And I'm like, okay, stop. Just do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm about doing it, taking the VCR apart, and it'll sit there for months and it won't be put back together. I'm like, just make a mess and we'll figure it out later. So I'm the doer. Mm-hmm. I'm not the I don't want to say manager type. I'm like, just do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, it's good.
Same with my kid. My kid, like, there was a point where my kid was like, I can't wait to take over your business, Dad. Then she like worked for me, and then she was great, and then became like one of the worst employees in the history of my brand. But I think I say that jokingly, right? But she was like, there was a moment where she was just really over being there, and she couldn't get out of there fast enough. But she's excelling at what she's getting into, and it's just really exciting to see like my work ethic. She picked up my work ethic and my curiosity, and she's doing a way better job of like handling stuff than I probably ever will. So that's really cool to see. Like,
so is she an employee now of the company, or is she
No, she's been gone for a while. She's just been studying, and now she's like in the medical field. And
okay.
Yeah, it's really cool to see.
So you're happy.
I'm stoked because like the ideas and thoughts that she's having at her age were not even like, that wasn't part of any equation that I was having at 21, let alone 15 or 16.
We know what we were doing at 21.
20, yeah, you don't want to.
We were thinking about one thing. Alcohol and women and weed, probably.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
So is your family still in New Jersey, or is everybody out here?
So I have a sister in Jersey. I have a brother in Texas. I lived in Texas for like 10 years. My mom's in Florida because she wanted to go back to Florida. And then I'm Puerto Rican, so I got 100 cousins, aunts, uncles, all in Puerto Rico. And
do you go there all the time?
I try to go. I'm trying to make a more conscious effort to interact with that part of the world, but it's just not an excuse. It's long. There's not a direct flight. It's 10 plus hours. Really, it's like 14 hours of investment to get there. And by the time you get there, you're only thinking about coming back, and then you're only there for 3 days.
So are you, be honest, and you're humble. I know you're humble. Are you like super famous in Puerto Rico? You're like a. I
wouldn't say super famous.
You're famous though.
I wouldn't say I'm famous, like super famous, right? Like it's not like I'm J-Lo or Menudo or.
But when you get off the plane,
no. When I get off the plane, no one's really recognized me off the plane. But I'll say this: this was a cool moment that I was like, damn man, like it translated down here. People mess with it down here. I did an event in Puerto Rico. I went for multiple reasons. One, my old man had passed away, and I went to go, lay his ashes in Puerto Rico. But there was also a trade show, a sneaker show that was there. And I'm like, man, like this sucks. But like at the same time, I get to kind of go to work here and see how different, or like, is there even acknowledgement of my brand here? There was people wearing my merch like there, and I sold merch there. And so after the show, I think I took like 300 shirts or something like that. I had like 40 or 50 left, right? And I was in Puerto Rico for like a few more days. And so I was just like, just to see. I'll make a post that I'm at this beach under this palm tree, and that if anybody that missed out on shirts wants a shirt, I'm under this palm tree at this beach. Like 10, 15 people showed up.
What?
Excuse me, yeah. So I got to sell like 10 or 15 shirts. That post is somewhere on my Instagram.
I'm gonna check that
so
out.
So that was cool. And there's been times where I'm at restaurants where like a server or waiter is like, hey man, it's really cool what you've done. Like, but that's globally, right? Like I went to Singapore last year, and I only bring that up because Singapore SneakerCon is this year, and I'm not there because I have, prior engagements but I had a line halfway down the hall of this show and people in Singapore. Like, it's a whole nother language. It's a whole different, they're 17,
culture.
17, 18 hours ahead, different culture. So think about, how are you even catching my content, right? Like, this sneaker thing is all walks of life. That's the thing that I've learned with this. And it's just really humbling that out of all the people in the world, that I've been able to build something that some people across the world are like, you know what, I'll put up with this guy's stupid antics and face for a little bit and watch. So it's pretty cool.
So what's your, a couple more questions I got for you. What was the most expensive shoe that you sold? How much was that? Or maybe you still have in the store.
The most expensive shoe we tried to sell was the Sotheby's Louis Vuitton Air Force One that was like auction only. Those all sold for 6 figures at Sotheby's. We had it listed for $300,000. We didn't sell it, but the guy got antsy and I think took like a deal that let him make a little bit more money than he paid, and he paid 6 figures for it, right? So that happens a lot in the consignment world, right? You don't understand where the consignor's at, and sometimes you just don't get enough time. The most expensive item I've sold in the store was a Cause dissected doll that I got from Everlast. It's like 4 feet tall. We have one in there. We sold that for like $150,000. But we've had, we've had multiple 6-figure transactions in the store. And most expensive shoe that I could remember selling is auto lacing mags. We had 2 pairs of those. I actually got yelled at a lot for buying both of those. I was told that it was no one in their right mind. You shouldn't be spending this type of money. And on one of them, I made like $25,000. On the other one, I made like $15,000.
Were those your partners?
I had people that were vested into the brand.
Okay.
That was a really big brand at one point, and I just didn't know how to interact, and I don't think they were used to dealing with people like me.
Are you too direct, you think, for some people? Because this is what I notice people on the East Coast. I get along with a lot of people on the East Coast.
I think that I don't know how to control my anxiety. I don't medicate in any way. And I think that sometimes my tone might be perceived as like rage or like, no, it's got to be my way, where it's more like I can't get that. Like, you could see my brain runs faster than I talk. Right. And so I think there's been times where I've caused stress in that. And so it's me learning to kind of slow down kind of thing. And again, it's not knowing, right? Like, imagine you working with a corporation that's worth billions of dollars, and they're vested into you. And there's metrics that you got to hit for them to, continue to work with you. And everything they're used to is invoice and bill later and pay later, and like it goes in a bank account. And you got some random schmo that looks like me saying, no, we got to go to this trade show and I got to spend 7 figures and it'll be cash. And don't worry about it. I don't need security because everybody knows me. No one's going to mess with me, and I'll have it all itemized. It's not an easy conversation to win over a board that's a publicly traded company. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not how. So, and then I was micromanaging a lot. I went to New York 18 times in 1 year, between 3 to 21 days. And it's like my wanting it to work so bad didn't let anybody really kind of learn.
You think you lost a lot of people because of it?
I think I learned how to be a better leader. And yeah, I think I'd love to see some people with me, but I think I taught a lot of people the right and wrong way to do stuff. So I think it's playing out the way it's supposed to.
That's interesting. And now, do you have a home sneaker collection at home? Stuff that you will not sell ever?
every part of everything that I've done is me shedding something, right? So, like, are there stuff that I'd hate to let go? Sure. Would I not let it go? Nah. If I let go, like, I let go some stuff that, like, I cried about.
Do you regret it?
Nah, because it helped me evolve. So, like, I look at my sneaker room. I have so many sneakers in there.
How big is it? Is it like one room? Is it like
it's a room. It's a room. It's a pretty big room.
wow.
And so there's a couple thousand pairs in there, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to get this room back. Right? Like,
What do you mean back? What's in there now?
The sneakers. It's just sneakers. Like, I love like you to continue to do something at the scale that I do, right? Of hoarding or collecting or whatever you want to call it. You have to shed. You have to shed. So, like, it's got to pay for itself. It can't be your lively. You can't affect your livelihood and continue to collect. There's got to be a way that it pays for itself. Now, if I'm the sneaker guy, and I'm probably going to be doing this to my end of days, in a sense, then I can't keep every sneaker. I have to let go of sneakers to make room for, because what am I going to do? Keep buying bigger houses and more storage? It's just not sustainable, right? And your interest changed. Like,
You might have to buy a whole house just for your sneakers.
I'm not doing that. I'll buy another house, but I'm not going to buy another house for sneakers. That doesn't. They don't. There's no way to protect its integrity to where it doesn't.
Like, you need an intervention like on the television.
No, I don't need an intervention. I could do it myself. Yeah,
Jayce, you got to get rid of your shoes.
Yeah, no, I've done it. I mean, that's how I paid for my sneaker store in Caesars. I got rid of thousands of pairs of sneakers, and that was multiple like.
But you started at the
Boulevard,
right?
Well, I started on my mother-in-law's kitchen table in Henderson, and then like. It took a life of its own.
And then you were at the other mall.
Boulevard, then Fashion Show.
Fashion Show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when this happened, like I have no partners. I'm getting asked, hey, do you want to open a store over here? I'm like, I'd love to. And then, COVID and expedited fees and everything's being a premium. So we went way over budget because, I'm an artist. And
But you're doing good now.
Well, I think I've always been doing good, like it's just. I learned really early on, you got to let go of stuff to get stuff. You can only carry so much stuff with you, so.
Anything you want to give back or anything you want to say to any up and coming entrepreneurs or people that are trying to strive for excellence and be successful in business? Is there a message you could say?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just don't be scared of starting and don't get caught up on what you don't have. Like if it's, I've brought this up a lot, but if it's something that you think you want to do for a long period of time, then who cares if you have all the tools and resources at the beginning? Just try everything at the beginning and break it as much as you can. And if you're still surviving or floating or still motivated to keep going, well, then you're probably doing it right. I think that's the biggest thing is that we're telling our friends, our families, people that we think will support us what we want to do. And because we don't know how to put it on paper or create like that lookbook or line sheet that gets me motivated to invest into you or support you, it doesn't look right to everybody because you're talking something so different to them that they're used to hearing you that they criticize it. And you take the criticism not as like constructive criticism. You take it as, man, they don't want me to do this. You know what I mean?
Did you write down a business plan or did you just went for it?
Business plan. I've been Jim Kelly, no huddle offense my whole life. We just get up and go. And whatever I get done, I get done. And then whatever I haven't been able to do, like I just keep it mental log and then I yap it out. I might put it in a note, forward it to somebody. Let's work on this. Let's get that done.
Really?
I know it's not the most ideal way, but it's like I'm free, bro. I have no restrictions in creating. I don't ever want to have restrictions in creating. And I know that for the suits or the people that may or may not want to invest in me, like that scares them. But I could always get somebody in front of me that could do what I'm missing. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think there's any shortage of investors for what you do.
Nah, there's not.
There's plenty of people that probably
Every
approach
day,
you.
I get offered. There's more conversations where I get offered money than conversations of people asking me for money
to sell out, to buy,
just to add value to what I'm doing.
Really?
Yeah.
And then when you probably met a lot of the people at the Super Bowl event that came in.
I got to interact with people that I spent time with people I saw value that I've had relationships with. It was pretty cool.
And you don't have an ongoing podcast per se for yourself, do you?
Not yet.
Is that in the works?
I think that there'll be some, I have to. It's just, it's got to be like, I have to be able to do it right. And the way that my days are playing out right now, it's just, I wouldn't be efficient.
I think you need to do it.
Yeah.
Because you have the connections in the network.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things, like mine's on relationships, but you'll see people that, and I don't want to say it's because of that, if they're already established, it's easier to get going because they already have the network of people showing up, you know, like Jayce, right? You know, he had Cat Williams on there. He 50 million views in the first 14 hours. Like, but still doing a good job. I'm not taking that from him. But for a guy that, you know, it's like, okay, who's this dude? Who's Black Ice? What's it about that relationship? He had Jayce on there. It's building up the connections and relationships, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, it's the same thing. I get asked, not to cut you off, but I get asked to write a book on my life story. And it's like, no, I'm not done writing. Like, to me,
that's good.
The stuff that like matters hasn't even happened yet. You know, like, who cares what my starting point was? I like, this, like, everybody has a difficult starting point, a traumatizing moment that creates restriction. Like, I feel like everything that I've done is just like my training course on how to do stuff right. And people are like, think this is it. Like, that this is like the peak, this is the top. And I'm like, I feel like I'm still at the lowest that I've ever been, like, as far as like impact and like opportunities that I have. I genuinely say that, not trying to have any ego. Like, I have too many thoughts and ideas that I got to get out that I haven't even been able to have serious conversations to get them even going.
You need to download it into a computer, right?
Yeah, pretty soon I'll be able
to Neuralink.
I'll be able to put a chip in my head and get it off.
So, a couple more things I got. I know you don't have a lot of time. Is there anyone, and I don't want you to say the name, hey, I know everybody has haters, okay? But have you had people come after you directly? Like, not physically, but like maybe come after your business or both? Or
Yeah.
Really?
I've had a couple.
You seem like such a nice guy, and I'm not saying to blow smoke up your ass, but I mean, why would somebody want to come after you?
That's a question I asked them. I think that, again, it goes back to what we were saying, right? If I tell you, if the story starts here at this part of the table, and we got a whole entire table, and it's required for this person to tell this person and that person to tell that person to get over there. By the time the story gets to the last guy on the table, the story's not going to be nowhere near the same, right? So you've now, based off of every missing or added component to this, made your own prejudgment of me or my brand. And sometimes your emotional attachment or lack thereof or understanding of it causes you to question it in a way where you become a demoter. I like working with demoters and interacting with the demoter more than I like the promoter, because if like you said, I'm the nice guy that everybody loves, and you find it hard for people to talk about me in a negative light. So imagine if the guy that's going against the grain, that's talking about me in a negative light, gets turned over and becomes a promoter. How much harder of a promoter is he than a demoter? He's probably a bigger promoter than my promoters already. And I got instances of that, where there's guys that when I first started, you couldn't get them to spew anything positive about me. Now they're the guys that if they're in the room or in a chat and they see something negative about me, they're the first ones taking bullets and, you know, standing up and fighting the fight for me.
So what would a guy say that you've impacted his life? What would they say about Jayce? Who is Jayce? To the guy you positively influence versus the guy that you feel is negatively influenced by the wrong perception?
I think the biggest thing the most consistent thing I've heard is, because you did this, I'm able to do that. Or I'm now doing this. From staff that I had working for me that opened up their own businesses, to consigners that have opened up their own businesses, whether even in different fields. Like, I think when people look at my story, they gravitate to it because I am as close to them as what they are, right? Misunderstood, right? Or don't have the tools or resources. And I'm that one guy out of the, millions of people that try to do the thing that was able to stand on my own 2 feet because the community held the ground for me to be on, right? And a lot of people want that. And they're trying to, I think a lot of people could say that I've implemented some of the better business practices in this, and they try to emulate that.
Do you go into competitors' stores?
All the time.
And do you give them like an attaboy, or do you wish them well, or do you?
No, I try my best when I'm in any city to go to the stores that have been able to build a name for themselves or stand out or just open. And whether I need something from their store or not, I go in there and I try to spend. Because the last thing I want to do is go to a city and then someone look at it, it's like, man, this guy came to the store. He's for sure, he didn't come to my store. Like, F that guy, right? And then the other thing too is like when I first started and when I was starting, there was a couple of stores, one in Jersey, one in Hawaii, where I got to interact with the owners of those brands. And I asked a lot of questions. Why this? What about, like just all these questions, like anything that came to my head. And both of these individuals gave me a lot of time. And some of the stuff that they told me, I've implemented into my business, and some of it I added to that. And like, so that's very important to me, right? Like, you have to teach, you have to pay it forward, because if I could improve or help someone, avoid a lump, or it might save their business, it might help their business grow, and it's for the betterment of the industry. The industry has to somewhat be uniform, because I can't have this service and you not have it, even though, yeah, that's a competitive edge in a sense. Like, there has to be a standard. We're writing the standard of sneaker reselling retail. And so I try to go into as many stores as I can. Like, there's stores that opened in my mall, and
yeah,
like there's people that commented and like try to turn it into, oh, it's you versus them now. Like, how disrespectful. And I'm like, no, this is like the best thing that could have happened, because it further validates that this was the correct place in the first place. And now you're going to get to, like, there's going to be crossover. People that are hardcore followers of them that have never heard of me that are going to go here, and vice versa. And for no matter how many shoes I have and they have, there's always going to be that one scenario where they got something I don't have, and then I have something they don't have that turns into a sale.
And how's your relationship with Nike?
I don't know.
Do you like interact with them? Like,
I used to work at that Nike in that mall. But
like they're like the corporate. Do they ever reach out to you? They don't.
No, I mean,
create a brand, or
I'd be lying to you to tell you that I wouldn't want to make a sneaker. Who in sneakers or like sneakers wouldn't want to make a sneaker? Like, I'd love to. I don't think I've done enough for them to justify or feel safe that I would be the right ambassador to, give them concepts on what a sneaker should look like if my hands were on it, right? I think that when they feel there's value, I'll get a phone call. It's not like I go, hey, Mr. Nike, can I? Like, I'd love to work with every brand. I don't care the name of the brand. I just want to create, but that'll happen when it's supposed to happen.
So Air Force One is the number one selling Nike you have?
Air Force One, white on white, is like one of the top selling shoes that we carry.
Always. That's like the go-to.
I mean, it's the safest. It's the most like universally accepted silhouette in the history of sneaker, I think.
And then Jordans too?
Jordans have their moments where they go up and down, right? But there's some that you can never go wrong, and you'll always, if you're a sneaker enthusiast and you're a Jordan guy, you could justify going and buying.
Incredible. Wow. Hey, I appreciate you coming out. Is there any questions you have for me, or is there anything you want to add? Anything else you want to say?
Just thank you for allowing me to be on the platform.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't want to take too much of your time.
You're
I booked
good.
it for 2 hours, but I just wanted to get some insight from you, bring you out here. I appreciate all you've done in the community. Being in Vegas, it's good to see you out and about. I couldn't believe I saw you there.
Off the record, I'm in there way more than I should be, bro.
I know. I got a kind of funny story because I was winning too much there, so they kind of banned me from Resort World.
No kidding.
So I got to send an email. Yeah, I just sat in it. I went and ate at the 66 Lounge. True story. This happened a week and a half ago. I'm there all the time. I'm at the 8 Lounge. I'm at Gatsby's. I know everybody there. I spend a lot of money. I tip the waitresses 50% tips. The famous rapper was in there. I won't say his name. Didn't tip the waitresses. They're telling me I went and gave them $100 each. I don't drink.
Yeah.
I don't cause problems. And I went to eat there at the 66 Lounge, and I came downstairs. I sat at the bar waiting for the waitress to get a Diet Coke, shaken, not stirred. Security came up to me, and they go, "What's your nature of your business?" I go, "Excuse me?" And I was nice because, "Can I see your ID?" I said, "Sure." And then he said, what business are you conducting? I go, "Excuse me?" I go, I was just eating. He goes, we're not doing anything. I said, I'm waiting for the waitress. Anyways, the guy asked me to leave. Didn't tell me why. On the way out, they gave me a no trespass. And I thought, hey, do you got me mistaken with somebody? And so I got to send an email and figure out what happened. So I can't even go into 8 Lounge. I can't even go to the casino.
Wow.
And this was on a Tuesday. And all I did was go eat at 66 Lounge, tipped 30%, came downstairs, went to the Crystals, sat there, and I'm going, waiting for the waitress, and security's looking at me, and I'm like, well, like what?
That's crazy.
So I think either I don't win that much. I'm not Dana White with blackjack, but I don't know. I think it was a mistaken identity or something happened. But I was there probably 2-3 days a week, every week.
Yeah, I was going in there probably like 3-4 days a week, and it was, I know a lot of guys on the Raiders, so
Yeah.
And then I was a couple times smoked cigars with Mr. Davis, and then
I saw him in there at the national
lives in
championship because I'm a Michigan guy.
lives in there. It was cool. One of the last times I was in there, just kind of seeing him, like his take on the content that he was watching, which was like one of the practices for the team, and then like he quickly switched it to like just stuff that he's got interest to, and just like seeing what he watches on YouTube. Like it was kind of nothing negative. It was like yachts, cars, like just stereotypical stuff that when you could justify the purchase, you look at, right, and you want to learn on. So that was kind of cool. And then I try to take a lot of my friends there, right? Like I don't really drink. Like when I'm in there, it's either a ginger ale or like a martini espresso or espresso martini or whatever the hell you call them. And like what got me to smoking cigars was a buddy by the name of Frank, and Frank has a family member that's a very high up at Nike. And
speaking of which, keep talking. I'm gonna
Frank was telling me that the reason why he smokes cigars and why you should like to smoke cigars is because normally a good cigar takes about 45 minutes. So if you're sitting down with someone, you should be able to have a good, solid conversation for 45 minutes. And so more often than not, I'm smoking cigars that take. Yeah, that's funny.
You know him?
Mr. Woodson, yeah.
I tried to get him on the podcast because he has a whiskey brand coming out. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I met him too during Super Bowl. So, but yeah, so now I'm in all right, I want to try every cigar that's on that wall. And I've been kind of like picking one by one, like little by little. And, they've been kind to me, but I'm also like, they've been too kind. So I'm like started slowing down going because they're too kind when I go, right? Like I don't like free.
No,
and that's and I'm the same thing. Like when I'm in there, I tip the waitress. They're the hardest working ones in there, so I try to tip them. But at the same time, it's you gotta be ready and on, and that normally is at 10, 1, 2 in the morning. And the way I like to sleep, it's yeah.
Wait, the way you like to sleep? Talk about that. Are you like me? Like
I'm not a morning person.
I'm not either, brother.
So,
Thank you.
I'm not a morning person.
Stop. A multi-millionaire that's not a morning person. Thank you. Because success, it's not based upon when you get up or go to sleep. It's based on your performance. Is that a fair statement?
I try my best. My day has to, like anything business related, have to start after noon, after 12 o'clock. I need my routine. I need to wake up. I need to read my BS emails or all my emails. I need to go on my social media and repost all the stupid stuff. I still got to play my stupid little Candy Crush game that I play like in bed. That's an hour to 2 hour routine. And then when I shower and eat, I have to have my little 6 tacos every morning. I
love it, brother. I love it.
6 tacos. So like.
You don't like to change, though. No, you don't like to change.
I'm a creature of habit. So, like, if I don't have my 6 tacos and a Monster can before 12, I don't want to talk to anybody on the phone about anything.
I had to stop drinking energy drinks. I started getting acid reflux so bad.
What were you drinking? I'm sure it wasn't this.
Well, I was drinking the Celsius.
Yeah, you should try.
But then my gums, it's like, I went to the dentist. She's like, you must be drinking energy drinks. Your gums are receding. And then I don't do sugar, so I was doing the sugar-free.
Yeah, I've been on these for 14, 15 years.
Bro.
Like, I used to be on the other guy, the skinnier can, and that gave me, like, heart murmurs for a little bit, and then I just completely kicked it. And then funny story, on how I met these guys. I had a conversation with Jake Paul a long time ago about YouTube and how, like, the suggestion he gave me was that I should mispronounce and mistype words or do weird stuff to create engagement and comments. And he's like, you got to ignore the comments, but it's going to help with your visibility in the algorithm. So one day I was at a trade show and I had a Slim Jim and a Monster in my hand. And like, I don't know why, like I kind of spaced out in the middle of it. And then I heard weird stuff and I just dipped the Slim Jim in the Monster. And then shortly after I got signed, and I've been signed to them for like 4 years.
What?
But they have like, I'm not trying to.
No. Go ahead.
The way they use me, I think, is more like I get in these cool rooms. I find out people that are working on cool stuff. And I'm like, hey, man, you should look at this person. They're working on this and that and that. And I think that they won't be foot and mouth. And so I've helped a couple of my like heroes get signed to it. And then the other part is that because of the division that I'm in, I get to interact with an entire, like this weekend, I'm hanging out with guys that are signed to Monster, that are NASCAR, that are signed to Jordan Brand. So I get to do that. And then I'm at all the concerts that they sponsor and I get to meet all the acts. Right, and so then I get to share my story.
So you're like you're a celebrity.
Nah,
come on, brother.
I'm like the Al Bundy of this. I wouldn't say
you're like the what?
Al Bundy of this. Like my
Al Bundy is a stud. Or you see his new co-worker, what is she, Venezuelan gal?
Sophia.
Varga.
My 4 touchdown story wasn't a 4 touchdown story. So it wasn't even worth bragging like him, but. Try this. There's like an orange creamsicle that tastes like orange popsicle sticks, and it's like sugar free.
Okay.
Addicting. And then they have one that tastes like remember Brisk iced tea?
Yes.
And it's the same thing.
I remember
it's
that.
a rehab one, and those are good. But
I like that. Yeah, the rehab. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen it. It says rehab across the. Yeah. I need to. Yeah, and so I haven't. I stopped about 2 weeks ago.
That's good.
And then it's like I can't. I'm like you. I don't want. And when we schedule this podcast, you're like in the afternoon. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
Because I think, how's 9 o'clock? No, brother. Yeah. No, I can't get my brain going.
Yeah.
But then I'm a late night guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm up because I was in the military, so I'm up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning like this. Yeah. And I'm sometimes like, okay, I got to go to bed. That's just how I operate, but I don't want to do anything before noon. I mean, I'll talk to somebody 11, 10, but...
Yeah, I mean, I have to, but I really don't like to,
So how many of those a day do you drink?
I might open 3, but I might drink 1. Once they get warm, I kind of get rid of it. So, like, I might consume 1 in a day.
So you have a bunch of cases.
I have an allocation. It's really nice. It's probably more than any human should get. Honestly.
And I like something you said earlier, because I'm an advocate of this. I never ask friends for free shit. I never ask for handouts. I never say, hey, can you hook me up? I pay it forward, and I don't expect anything in return. So for me, I'd rather give somebody my money for their business at full price to help them and not expect anything. So, I see it all the time, and I'll go in, like I was in 8, and I was just in there to say hi to Eon, Eon, right? And the waitress
Good
like,
kid,
oh,
man. I give him Raider tickets every once in a while.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, and I said, great. And the waitress came up, gave me this hug. And I said, how's your night? I said, here's $20, right?
Yeah.
Why not, right? And I didn't do it because I wanted her to like me. I felt bad because she's working her ass off. Yeah. And I know how it is after the pandemic and the recession. People are struggling. And so I'm like, okay, here you go. So I'm not an advocate. I never want discounts from friends. I'll take a discount from the guy I don't know.
Yeah.
But my friends and associates, I want to help their business.
Yeah. Well, that's when I go to the stores. Like almost everybody's like, when I go to sneaker stores, everybody wants to give me a discount. And thank you, but you don't have to. And I'm always like at the register, like, no, charge me full price, please. Right? I need the points on my card.
The airline mileage.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's just how we were raised, bro. You do what's morally right, and you do what the other person isn't used to you doing, because that's what allows you to be in the rooms, right? And so if you don't ever have your hand out, the one thing people can't say is, he's a nice guy, but, right? Like,
I hear that all the time, and these are people that are, I would say, A-list rappers.
But A-list anything status is like, it's A-list entitlement to free stuff, right? So,
But they don't.
when I look at, there's a lot of people that I was like looking on social media that I follow, that I look up to, that I'm like, I'm watching them like, damn, man, they're at front row for everything, right? How? They're not even paying for it, right? Not necessarily that they were being given it by the team, by the stadium, by a manager, or by a agency. This is, half the time it's them getting a ticket up there and then finagling the way down there and acting like they belong down there, and they're just sniping out what seat was empty. That happens a lot. You'd be surprised, people I know, but I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. And then a lot of the pictures of people taking pictures with other people that are of influence, it's more like you're just in the same room and you grab them and you're like, hey, can I get a picture?
I did that with you.
Like, that happens a lot. And it's like the consumer is starting to read through that.
Right.
And so for me, like, there's times where you've seen me down there and sometimes you see me up there. It's because I'm paying for my
But I'm
like,
talking about like going to the high limit and not tipping the waitresses.
I don't even go to high limit.
I know, but this is what has happened.
I don't even really play. I'm scared.
Yeah, I'm not a big. Yeah, I play poker. That's it. But I don't have the time. I
I like poker, but I don't have the time either. I'd rather go to someone's house and like do the, the friends.
And then my mind's constantly thinking. I'll get in the shower and I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, I got an idea, and then I want to write it down on paper, but I can't get it to paper. But then I talk to my girl about it, and then she's like, oh, you should do this, and I can't stay focused on something. I lose interest. I got to go to the next project. So
yeah, I've only played poker like 3 or 4 times in casinos, not in Vegas. And it's like the last time I did it, I spent 8 hours. I only played 2 hands. Like, yeah, I just overthink and really didn't get.
You know who else is like that is Grant Cardone. He says if he loses $200, it drives him crazy.
It's not even about the money. It's more like the just not like. An example, I played in Blake Wynn's celebrity poker tournament a couple of weeks during Super Bowl, right? And I was telling him, like, I was chip lead on my table for probably 40% of the time that table was up and running till I got busted out. And the hands that I won weren't because I had the best hand. It was just that I bet in a format or in a way that it was the correct amount to scare the other person with the winning hand.
Did you know that, though?
Yeah, but I also lost my backside on a hand because I didn't catch that part fast enough. So I put chips and then I took my hand and wanted to put more. And by then, like, the amount wasn't enough to scare that person off. And I got reamed on that one because I tried to make it up on the next hand. But by then, on the turn, they already made their hand and I was cooked, right? And but I told Blake, because I was paying so close attention to every hand and everything that someone showed their hand after they won, whether it was like an obligation to show or they felt like showing. I never had a set of hands that would have won if no money was involved. Like, if we were just throwing the cards, I would have never won, right?
So it's your table image and the betting.
Yeah.
Because you were playing tight? You weren't playing a lot of hands?
I mean, I played some hands I had no business playing just to kind of throw sense off, and I won hands that I had no business playing. But, like, the hands that I lost on were hands that you see on ESPN, and you're like, man, you can't make this up. This guy lost. Like, you flop 2 pair, you know what I mean? You flop a flush, you still lose on the river, like.
That's how it is.
Like, so I enjoy the math. I enjoy the math, not the money part of it.
Okay, right on. So what do you do? Last question. I know I keep saying that, but
you're good.
What do you do to decompress? What do you do to relax?
I take anxiety pills.
No, you don't, do you?
I take like 0.1 milligram. No, yeah, I take 2.5 milligrams. So what's that, 1 milligram every couple of days to try to, like, I can't shut my brain off. Like, my whole day, when I get home, like, even after this, I'll go home and say, okay, what did I miss?
And you don't do marijuana or anything like that? Really?
No, very little whiskey at this point. Espresso, martinis. Like, if I know that I'm going to be out late, and 1 or 3 cans of Monster.
Well, that's probably getting your brain going, the caffeine, though, right?
I need it.
Do you have a hard time focusing, or is it just you can't turn your brain off, or both?
I can't shut it off. There's too many layers to my onion.
You're like Shrek. The donkey.
Yeah, I'm donkey. I'm donkey. I look like a donkey.
Not everyone likes layers. No, you don't. I'm sorry. You have to have kids to remember that because our kids were that age. And if I say it now, everybody's like, what are they talking about? I just aged myself.
I'm 100% donkey.
Oh my gosh, man. Hey, bro, I appreciate you coming out, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. Jayce Lopez, guys. Make sure you go to Urban Necessities. Instagram, YouTube, watch a YouTube channel. Follow him on his Instagram. And make sure you stop in the store at the Shops and Emporium at Caesars. It's a fabulous store. In fact, it's the door I go into. I cheat and park right over there where the valet is and go in the little side door. And then right by the dragon fountain thing. And then there they are on the right-hand side. Stay strong. See you soon.